Well, good afternoon, listeners. You're listening to Lament of Hope podcast, and I'm your host, Danielle Richardson. And I'm very, very excited to be speaking with Pedro Eustache. Um, he was born in Venezuela, but he has performed all over the world. I actually saw him recently at a Hans Zimmer concert, which is really the first time I've heard his music because I've seen so many movies he's done, but you don't really usually see or have interviews or hear a lot about the musicians behind films. It's usually the actors, the directors, or everything like that, which is totally normal and fine. But I heard him play the duduk, which is my favorite woodwind instrument,
Mm.
and that was so beautiful. And I thought it was so interesting because every time he performs, he would always kiss his hand and then look up. And I was sitting next to my husband and I said, I think he's a Christian. And my husband's like, you don't know. I mean, people just whatever. And I said, no, I think there's something different. I said, I think that he's a Christian. So I reached out to him and then here I am. And we finally were able to meet. He's been on tour. He's going on tour again. So I'm very happy to have connected with him during this period of rest for a minute. So, Pedro, I want to say thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure, Danielle. And again, before we started recording this thing, I apologize to you and I want to do it again publicly. You have been so incredibly consistent, insisting in doing this. And I have been all over the place. And it's like, can I do it now? Can I? And you send me all these dates. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And finally, and last week when we were supposed to do it, then something happened and we couldn't
Yeah.
do it. And great
This
that we
year.
can do it this week, which is fantastic. Yes,
Yeah.
it's my pleasure. And thanks for that wonderful introduction. Which concert did you go to? I don't remember.
It was the one in Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh my gosh, that is the last one we did
Yeah.
finishing the tour. Funny thing, anecdote, Danielle. That tour started in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Okay,
Yes.
and as we finished this thing on that concert that you witnessed, and your husband, I assume. Yes, because you mentioned that. So silly of me. Um, few days before then, I received confirmation from the one who is my manager now, because I never had one until very recently. That's another story I would love to share with you, which is incredibly powerful. Because up to now, I never had a manager, an agent, a publicist, or official legal representation.
Oh, wow.
I never had any other way to put it but to say it is God, Jesus, who has opened all the doors. And yes, I am a follower of Christ. Uh, now, because of weird connotations, we need to clarify because when we say Christian, there are some politicized connotations to that. And I want to make sure people understand that I'm not into that at all. I'm a centrist. I cannot go there or there. The Bible I read and the Jesus I follow are my guide and my north, and that's why I want to make that distinction. Many times I prefer to call myself a follower of Christ
That's very good.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, again, Christian has connotations for the white audience that many times do not convey what the actual word means, which is a
Yes. Very true.
very good word, but it has been added some layers of uh, content that can use for someone to get confused about that.
Yeah.
So I want to clarify that. And the other thing I wanted to say is, yeah, to finish the story, now my new manager, who I believe God sent to me, is Daniel Daher from Lebanon. He lives in Andorra.
Oh,
And
wow.
this guy is a genius. I love him. He gets me. I think he's maybe the only person at that position of management that actually gets me. For many years, I tried it, didn't work. And so 1 week before we finished, before you saw our concert or you came to our concert, he goes like, Pedro, there's a special, amazing, huge celebratory concert in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia next week. and you are one of the four international soloists they're summoning to go there, and like, oh my goodness! So after we started 4 weeks ago, we're returning to the same place. So it was an amazing concert celebrating a genius Egyptian legendary film music composer called Omar Hayrat.
Hmm.
All that is my Instagram and whatnot. And so the funny thing is, like, we started there, we did all these things, and we finished there. And when everybody else after the concert you came went home, I went back to Saudi Arabia for a whole week to do this thing. And it was amazing. It was four incredible soloists, including Jonathan, a fantastic tenor singer from England, and maybe the greatest violinist in the world, Maxim Vengerov.
Yeah.
And it was and a fantastic maestro, cellist from China, who teaches at the Shanghai Conservatory One, and unbelievable experience. But yeah, that was funny that you mentioned Baltimore, because after that I saw incredible friends who I love in Baltimore, and then I had to get on a plane to go all the way back there. Unbelievable.
Well, I was gonna ask you, you play about 600
Well, that's I
woodwind instruments? Is that
well,
true?
yeah, woodwind, and there's machines. I got synthesizers and whatnot, and um I lost count, to tell you the truth. I'm looking at my place here. I've been saying, I've been approximating, saying that maybe 600. Maybe there are more. Maybe there's slightly less. I don't know, but that's what I think. Like this guy here that you see, there's many in the back. Like this
Yeah.
guy here, I have already like 14 and a half of those, and I could easily, I estimate I could make 10, at least 10 more racks of those,
Wow. So
because I have
you
many
make
instruments.
them too.
Well, many of them. Well, the racks, yes, I make them because I cannot buy those things. And many of my instruments I do make as well, but many I buy, obviously. And many of the ones I buy, I also modify as well, depending on whatever the project is. And well, that's the beauty, and that's part of my what I call my holy craziness. It's a very powerful thing to have an instrument that nobody else in the world has, and you understand and you feel when you play that you're producing something that is unique,
Yeah.
that
How do you
nobody.
know that you'll need to change the instrument? Because how are you gonna
Oh,
know
that
what it
that is a
sounds
great.
like?
That's a great instrument. That's a great question, Daniel. It is many years I've been doing this, many years, and when you do research in acoustics and you pay attention to that, and you get many books in the craft of how to make instruments. No, number one, necessity is the mother of invention, literally, as the saying goes. And you are not born, like early 80s. That's when I made my first shakuhachi out of, which is a Japanese traditional 5-hole flute from PVC. When I started, I was born and raised in Venezuela. As you said, my mom was white, my dad was black. They're both with Jesus. That's why I used to say that I'm cafe au lait. But Lebo, the genius singer of Lion King, with whom we're going in few days to do his first concert in Cape Town. That's the first stop we're gonna do. Is in a couple of weeks, less than 2 weeks. I'm going there to participate as a guest soloist in his first ever solo concert. It's majestic. Hans gonna be there. Juan Garcia Herrero, Snow Owl, the genius bass player, will be there. Rosanda Panfili will be there. Uh, and I believe Mariko Chan, the cellist, as well, will be there. So yeah, we're. Uh, he used to say, "No, Pedro, you're not cafe au lait, you're cappuccino, just a little bit darker." And why I say that is because being raised, being born and raised in a place which is incredibly multicultural, and from parents that are from two completely different ethnicities, uh, and from another culture that spoke another language, had a completely different idiosyncrasy, mentally speaking, and a completely different perspective towards things. But then, growing up in Venezuela, I was enriched not only by my DNA, but also by my 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 surrounding
Yeah.
uh,
Your
uh,
environment.
yeah, my environment. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that there's a writer that said that Latin America is a cosmic race
Hmm.
because we have so many influences. We're such a true melting pot. I think in certain things, the U.S. is an incredibly multicultural country, but I used to say that it's more like a Russian salad. Like little pieces of things, and then some of them mix, but you can see still that Latin America is like, forget it. You know, see, you can see dark skinned people with blue eyes or green eyes. And in my family we go from completely blonde to darker than this. You know, and we are cool. Sadly, I came to discover prejudice first in Europe when I went there to study to France and Switzerland, and then in America. My wife is white, and she has suffered that being besides me. It's a
Hmm.
sad thing. It's still there. It's still there. Subtle sometimes, not as subtle other times, but still, we're so blessed to be in this incredible country. We're so incredibly thankful to God because if I was not here, I would not be able to really grow the way God has allowed. And something I want to point out from the start, Danielle, is when I speak from my life experience. I'm not into proselytizing. I'm not into selling ideology.
Yeah.
I'm not into forcing any kind of philosophy into anyone. Uh, I simply owe it to myself to speak from the reality of my life experience.
Mm.
And that is very heavy, and I need to be very genuine. And that, like everyone has right to speak about their experience. And that's why I share and I say what I say is out of incredible life experiences that have affected me and shaped me to become who I am.
Yeah.
And hopefully still what I will become because I'm still full of flaws, incredibly limited, yet I'm willing and I am perfectible. So I keep praying God to keep having mercy on me and keep shaping me and molding me into someone who is closer to Jesus than what I am now.
Yeah. What, just to go back to what you said before, you say you've had so much experience with the instruments, and that's how you've come to know what they'll sound
Yeah.
like.
And I didn't finish the question. Thanks for bringing me back. I do that a lot. I go like,
It's
and
all
I
interesting, but you always have to come back. Yeah.
absolutely. And thanks for doing that. Please don't stop doing that. What happens is this. And that's a great question. I'm going to try to zero into it. I hope my friend, Senor Eduardo, doesn't bother us too much with the gardening thing. I hope we're okay. Uh, uh, there's the key word, that I share when I teach and when I talk about things, and even spiritually. The key fundamental word I use or I emphasize is awareness. Awareness. As a performer, as a musician, as an artist, as a communicator that I am,
Hmm.
as a worshiper who I am, I believe since I was 17 when I discovered that the greatest musician in history, Johann Sebastian Bach, who also was a deeply convicted follower of Christ,
Yeah.
the greatest musician ever, ever, ever in all history of humanity, second to none, not even Mozart. Comes after him. Then Beethoven, and then everybody else. Sorry. Some people would disagree with me, but I have my reasons, and I can debate this, and I can hold my ground. Anyways, that's another talk for another time. He said that music existed to glorify God and to sublimate, to elevate the human soul. And
Hmm.
since I was 17, I said, I want that my life to be. So, as all of that, I had to develop an awareness, not only of how I play or what I play or the way I convey it, which took me to a place of incredible discovery with a science called musical phenomenology. We can talk about this later. It's an incredible thing, but also sonically, sonically. So when I was in Paris, I had the blessing of studying with four of the greatest, if not the greatest, teachers. It was Raymond Guillot, who's still alive, 94. I saw him last year. We went to visit him, my wife and I, and we spent almost 4.5 hours sharing with my beloved master. Amazing, another beyond remarkable, super incredible maestro. And I started with Alain Marion, who left us already. I studied with Pierre Vartot, who is still alive in France, and Aurel Nicolet in Switzerland, who maybe was the greatest teacher of the 20th century. Funny thing is, Danielle, the greatest classical soloist, flute soloist in the world, is considered by many is Emmanuel Pahud. He's a solo principal at Berlin Philharmonic. We're very good friends. We were buddies. Of the four teachers we had, we coincide in three of them.
Hmm.
And so that tells you the level of incredible influence God allowed concerning that. Maestro Nicolet used to say, it's very good to search. It's important to experience to search, but it's very important also to find. So not only search, experiment, we need to find. And the other thing he used to say, incredibly powerful, simple but so deep, is we need to be aware of how we sound, not on how we think we sound.
Huh.
So it's all talking about awareness. We need to be aware, develop the capacity of critical thinking.
Hmm.
That, when applied to my instrument sonically, there are things that I go like, I can do better. Or if there's an instrument that has, like these guys here, only 6 holes, and I studied with great masters. That's Indian traditional northern uh, Hindustani classical music flute called bansuri. Uh, and I have incredible experience with that in '94 when I took my first lesson with the greatest, maybe the greatest Indian musician of the 20th century, uh, the legendary Pandit Ravi Shankar. I had the complete undeserved blessing, I think maybe to be the only Latin who studied under him. When
Hmm.
I met him and I started playing, I suffered horribly because the nature of the instrument, I didn't have the proper technique.
Uh,
And back then, Anushka, his daughter, is so precious. She was 13, I think. She's a kid. And there's Kartik Sheshadri, an incredible master. Uh, they're together playing sitar. And they're eating up this raga called Air Bairav. It is this raga. I'll never forget. And I was struggling. And Maestro Ravi Shankar paid me one of the most delicious, exquisite insults ever in my life in such a tender way, but he was so sincere. I love that of him. He said, Pedro, I'm sorry, but you sound like an elephant trying to run. Because I struggled so much. So when I went back after that, I went home. I went like, okay, either I break this thing in two and I throw it through the window, but I really, 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 really want to play this thing. So what I did is I applied myself and uh, give me a second, please. I made my own instrument. So I'm gonna bring you this. I should have prepared for that, but here we go. You can edit later if you want and whatnot. What happened was I was playing. Yeah, here it is. I have the two instruments here. I have the original one that I was playing with him, and then this one. Okay. Uh, yeah. Here
Wow.
you go. Let me share this real quick because, like they say in English, talk is cheap. So I was playing this guy here, which is a bansuri in D, big bansuri. As you can see,
Yeah.
the
Wow.
extension of the tune. You hear the sound of that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Hard. That's the one he said I was playing like I sounded like an elephant trying to run. Now check this out now. Same same length, same instrument. You hear the difference, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And the traditional bansuri has 6 holes and then a seventh hole underneath,
Wow.
and has no thumb holes. My thing has 15 holes
Wow.
and has 4 holes for the thumb and the red, and I have 2 holes for the knees instead of one. So when I went back to see him after I made this guy, which is made, this is a beautiful story. It's made with bamboo that my wife Sarah and I harvested in Kauai. So we went to the bamboo forest. It's an
Sweet.
interesting story because back then, uh, you know, marijuana was not legal like it is in many states now, and there are many marijuana plantations that were completely, illegal, right, back then. So the people that told us where to get, how to go to the bamboo forest, you gotta be very careful because around there's uh, illegal marijuana plantations, and if you get caught, you can get shot, and nobody will never ever find you ever. So it
Oh.
was this incredible thing of going like almost like Indiana Jones, we go over the creek and then we went there. Let's get out of here. We left. So yeah, this is wonderful bamboo that I harvested there. We harvested there. So by virtue of doing this, when I went back to him after practicing and everything, he freaked out in a good way. He said, "Wow, Pedro, you have to patent that because in India they will steal the thing. They'll say they invented it because they have done that with my music." And he blessed me and everything. He puts his hand over me and he said, "Wow, this is amazing." And this is a perfect story of illustrating how, out of necessity, I had to come up with a solution. Because now, Danielle, what is otherwise single holes become double holes. And they're
Yeah.
hard. It's not easy to play because with one finger, I have to play to holes. it took me years to develop this thing. I don't think anybody in the world can play this thing because I mean,
Oh.
I made this thing. It's my own thing, and I actually registered these things, and I call that system my model chromatic fingering system. But the point here is, this is wonderful. It's a life lesson right here. It really is. Out of a severe disadvantage because I wasn't born in India. I said, in order to play this thing the way I want to play it, I would need to stop everything and dedicate 10 hours of my life daily playing this thing for I don't know how many years in order to get to a place that I can go around playing
Mm.
these difficult ragas. Because some ragas you can play and they're very good. I mean, um, I can, that is no problem. But when I do something with half holes, like I eat by have back then, or I just played now, something called Miyoki Todi. It's very difficult, very, very, very difficult to do with the traditional 6 hole, 7 hole Mansuri. And so what I decided is I need to play, so I'm gonna make my own of this. So out of
Mm.
a severe, severe, severe disadvantage, I got an incredible advantage now because nobody in the world can make this sound. Look at this thing. I got, Daniel, I have avionics principles in here of aerodynamic.
Yeah.
Allow me to have a sound that is incredibly solid. And by virtue of having these things, then I can play things that other basswood players cannot play.
But I was also going to say, Pedro, though, you were willing to admit you couldn't play it.
Of
And so
course.
you were like, I want to make something that I can play. And it ended up being something that you could use so much quicker, but also just like you were willing to admit that, okay, I'm not born in this country, so I'm not going to be able to get to play this as well. So I'm going to make something else that is similar. And I feel like I don't know many musicians. I mean, because I feel like that's a huge blow to the ego, as a musician, if you go, I can't play that. People don't
Well,
like to
that is,
say that. But it's so
I
interesting for you. You see it as a strength. You're like, okay, I can't. I admit that, but I
of
can
course,
make something else.
because I mean, again, it's a life thing.
Yeah.
We we need to be sincere. We need to admit things we cannot do and actually use them as fuel. You see, being born and raised in Venezuela, we don't have any other options but to find solutions. It's not like, oh, I cannot go and buy this at a store, then, I don't have it. No. You need to put your mind at work and find a way to make it work. And that thing, I transfer that into my instruments. And it's also the joy of knowing that you have made something with your hands that can make a sound. This is the flute I use in the scene of the Garden of Gethsemane and the Passion of the Christ, where there's a blue moon there and Jesus is praying
Yeah.
and asking God if there is a way for this cup to pass, but not my will, yours be done. This is the flute which is behind this thing. This is what sounds under that incredible scene. And uh, little did I know that by thinking that I was going to honor the cultures I'm learning from, the same thing happened with the Duke. I end up playing in something like that, which for me is the soundtrack of my life. I think God created me to play in that soundtrack. And by virtue of having these instruments, and I could bring something nobody else in the world could bring. Not only the
Yeah.
music inspired me, but also
Wow.
by the fact of having instruments that sound like none else in the world. It's very, very powerful. Now, let me ask you this. Let me tell you this. My need to express, my need to play, my need to be able to do this thing is so much bigger than my ego, and that's a beautiful thing. You see, because it inspires me. I don't have a problem admitting that there's stuff I cannot do because that helps me get better. Then I know I have to work in order to acquire that And to this day, many other people see me and say like, like I'm a big deal. But listen, I'm painfully aware of my limitations and things that I cannot do still.
Hmm.
Having done all the things, and still there are so many things I am keenly aware of that I have to still work very hard to develop and acquire. So,
What's one thing you think you would
oh, where do I start?
Oh, you pick one thing. Maybe something that's not musical. Think of something maybe
Oh,
character-wise or
that's very easy. God has so much to work still in my personality. I'm very strong-willed, Daniel, and I'm asking God to develop more in me of the fruit, what is called in the good book, the fruit of the spirit. I am too intense. I tend to be sometimes too explosive, and that is not a good thing. And I recognize that. So
Hmm.
that's something in life, very important aspect that I'm aware of, that I'm asking and working very hard, asking God to shape, to mold me better. And if you allow me to go into music, there are aspects of creativity that I still need to develop. Maybe I feel that theoretically I might know more than I actually do.
Yeah.
Many times God surprises me. I do things that I go like, oh my goodness. I had the pleasure and the blessing of a couple of weeks ago to do a master class at the Los Angeles City College, and which is something I remember clearly when I could not do. I asked, for example, the students to give me three notes, Daniel. Just give me three notes. In fact, I don't have my good flute here, but I don't care. This is a little Chinese flute. Daniel, give me three notes real quick.
Uh,
It's A, B, C, D, whatever. It's from A,
uh,
B, C, D, E. You can do flat or sharp or whatever.
how about E
E,
B f
uh-huh,
E,
uh-huh. E,
B flat,
uh-huh.
E B flat and A.
Listen to this.
That's so cool.
I remember when I could not do this. And you can give me any three notes, and somehow, in a way that I cannot explain, other than by the fact of developing so much my music making foundation and analyzing Mozart for 4.5 years to write my own book on how we can compose cadenzas in the Mozart style. That has not been published, by the way. I need to get a publisher. I'm still looking in Europe, and they're helping me, but I haven't found yet.
Yeah, you need a publicist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You have a
And
manager. One
well,
step.
well, not only a publicist, a person that can help me publish this thing. Anyways,
Right.
the point is because I had to analyze and really study Mozart, and I did research with musicologists and incredible research and works but been done on that. I have developed a capacity that I remember that I didn't have before.
Hmm.
The funny thing is, like when we did this master class at the LA CC, I asked them, I said, give me three notes. They gave me three notes. And I said, now I'm going to up my ante. And that's, I'm going to put it, it's on YouTube already. I can send you the link later, please. It would be wonderful if you can share that. I asked them, well, I need to ask you guys the style. Should I do something classical or a waltz or something like that or something Latino? It's a Latino. I said, okay, then, and I played. I made something completely Latin out of and I could do it now. out of your three notes.
It's
Completely different piece.
it's
You see?
amazing.
But
Yeah.
that's the Lord. I have a friend. He's amazing bass player. He lives in Switzerland. We're like, Pedro, how do you do that? I cannot explain it other than it just is this thing that is in there, in there, that when I hear whatever three notes, something happens and I can hear a background that allows me to exercise and to come up with these things. If you ask me to repeat what I played, I will not be able to. And it's gone. That was it. Thank God you videotaped this thing because otherwise, I'm serious.
Yeah.
I have kind of ballpark things here, but to play it verbatim again, I'm not playing cute or false modesty or none of that. I'm like a New Yorker, speak my heart. Sometimes I get in trouble because of that, you know. Because I very too flagrantly sincere sometimes. Um, and I need to be careful with that as well because I can get in trouble because sometimes we can affect people without realizing. So that's another aspect in which I need to allow God to shape me in a better way. Um, is that there is this? He asked me, Pedro, how do you do this? I don't know how to explain it other than it's a God thing.
Oh yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it's a gift that God allowed me to develop because I remember when I could not do that, not to save my life at all. I remember clearly when. So this is something that I cannot explain. And when I said I was going to be, it's not being cute or being false modesty, because it sounds cliche, because it's been said a lot. It is not me, Danielle. It's in spite of me.
Hmm.
I joke and I say I have a PhD on spite ofness. Because again, I know my limitations, and the fact that proves that it's not me is that I cannot repeat it because I don't remember what I did because it's like I am being played. And I feel I'm like a train over a railroad or a passenger in a car or a bus or a plane or something in a vehicle, and I'm sitting with you enjoying what I believe God's wonderful creativity is allowing for me.
Hmm.
So that's why I say I make sure I'm available. I make myself willing, and that's why I practice so much is to make because people tell me many times when oh Pedro you're a star oh and they give me all this it's not me it's really the Lord. It's something I've been granted. It's not. I cannot claim authorship over something that I know is not me. It's not my doing. Really is. They go,
Hmm.
they go like, oh, you're gonna have to learn how to take a compliment. It's like you don't understand. I am having the right perspective because I don't deny that because you've worked very hard. Of course, I work very hard, and I will keep working very hard for many years until I die. Why? Because I want to make sure I am the least possible obstacle for God to do His thing and make sure I get out of the way so He can do His thing.
Hmm.
And I believe that's my strength, recognizing His doing and recognizing Him instead of going into the ego thing. Oh, did you see what I can do? Ha ha ha. I cannot even breathe without God's permission.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
Now, people might not agree with me, and I respect that, but this is, Danielle, I don't know. We live in a time where people mention a lot of the word inclusive. Yet I feel that many times, especially in California, inclusive means any and everything else except Christ.
It's true.
You see?
Yeah.
And I don't say that as a I'm complaining or something. It's just a reality. Inclusion means inclusion. So, um, by virtue of doing these things, I can convey the way I see this happening in myself. That's it.
Yeah.
More questions, Danielle. More questions. You ask me incredible questions. Please, please, please. So, coming back to this thing to finish my other question. When I do this, I have to put. I graduated in science in my high school. My secondary thing was not in humanities. Was not in the arts. I got my master's and everything from California Institute of the Arts afterwards. And after studying graduating in Europe in classical music, I had it in jazz and here. And I studied Indian music and many other things, and electronic music and whatnot. But the thing is, when I do these things, I use the left part of my brain. I'm like a scientist because I have to uh, do research. I bought many books from shakuhachi.com, which is the traditional flute from Japan. But there are books there by
Hmm.
Bart Hopkin, who's a genius, Bart Hopkin. And I owe him a lot because he wrote books that blessed me tremendously. That's how I got into the craft. First in Europe, one of my teachers, I mentioned before, Pierre Verdot, was the president of IRCAM, which was the Center of Research of Musical Acoustics in Paris.
Hmm.
So he brought us to conferences of acoustics. There's this doctor in acoustic called Michelle Castellango. I have her thesis this thick in French,
Wow.
which he wrote for her doctorate degree on the system of flute principle. So that was my first introduction to flute acoustics, since early 80s, 82. Imagine that. Again, you were not even born. The thing is, um, since then, I got all these books in craft from Bart Hopkin and whatnot. Back then, there's no internet, or very no, there is internet because shakuhachi.com, of course. But I'm talking about early '90s, so it's like beginning of the internet. Imagine that. I still have the computer on there, Macintosh Classic, a little square thing like that. Our house looks like an Apple museum. We got like 12 machines through all the history of Apple doing things. Um, and why I mention that is because the urge, I come from a family, it's not that we are overachievers. We are people that need to develop knowledge, acquire knowledge, and we admire erudition. We got that from our parents. My dad
Hmm.
was a brilliant MD. My mom did not even finish secondary school because she dedicated herself to 7 kids, but was one of the wisest people in the world. One of my brothers is a PhD, is a PhD in theology, and there's certain things that my mother has said that are like at the same level of, and she never
Yeah.
finished school, but was one of the wisest people in the world, even spiritually, theologically, so incredibly advanced. So this is the family I come from, and I'm number 6. So when you have 5 of the brothers pushing real hard and doctors and PhDs and this and that, my sister was working on her second PhD, after getting her second master's degree after her first PhD and all that. And so we have this innate need to, in Spanish sounds very powerful, is superación personal, is to self-improvement, to get to a higher place, to
Hmm. Yeah.
learn, to exercise. It's like, King Solomon, searching for wisdom, search for wisdom. That is something ingrained on us. So this thing made me look for acousticians, literally PhDs that specialize in fluid acoustics, and that allowed me to find 2 geniuses. One of them already departed, Dr. John Coltman, who back then was the greatest authority in acoustics of the flute.
Hmm.
Thanks to him, I could develop things like this flute here, which I use in many soundtracks. And thanks to him, I could do these things. Those are called miter cuts. I had here my what was it? My hotel room's keys. That's what I put there. And there are special things inside there. Is I have the double hole system again here, but there's special plates in here inside that compensate for the miter cuts. And can do stuff nobody else in the world can do. Because this is like a base bansuri made out of PVC. But then, check this out. I take this off. There's a membrane there. You see it there?
Yes. Yeah.
It becomes a Chinese diza.
Oh my, yes, yeah, wow.
See, this is got
Yeah.
amazing creativity. Then I put back this in there and I block it. It becomes Mansuri again. So, you heard? You were in the concert. You saw when
Yes.
Hans introduced me that I did the PVC Home Depot Alto Shakuhachi Ashokan. And I want always to say, material wise, I don't think I paid $10 for this. This is PVC, literally. This is like water pipes or electricity pipes, whatever. Yeah, literally Home Depot. But then the science behind this thing and the physics and the aerodynamics are priceless.
Hmm.
Because in order to take something as simple as deceptively simple as a plastic pipe and to make a sound that becomes compelling and you can affect people and bring them to another place, that is something remarkable in my book. And because of people like that, Dr. John Goldman, by the way, the research we did in this thing was the last paper he published in the Journals of Acoustics before he departed and left this world. That's a very precious thing, very powerful thing. Because I brought him that problem. I said, Dr. Coleman, I want to be able to put, because the holes are too distant, but I want to be able to play them, so ergonomics come here. So he said, and I said, by doing this and cutting the tube and putting them together, my acoustics, the intonation is destroyed. He said, So he searched and said, Pedro, this is the solution. So you put plates here with this thickness and you put this big, and I did. And that's why I could play in tune. Without those compensating things in there, I'll be completely out of tune, and I will not be able to play. And then I also find Dr. Peter Hukia, who still is teaching, is a fantastic friend, another genius, teaching at a university in Cleveland, and he's a good friend. He's been here, my house twice. I've been to his place once, doing research and doing things. And by virtue of doing this, because again, Daniel, I need to find solutions. This is crazy. I should not do this, but I will do it. Check this out. These are head joints from many different flutes of the world. Look at this.
Wow.
It's 40 years of my life on this thing. You see, the mouthpiece of the head joint of the bansuri is here. You can see it there.
Yes, yeah.
See? And there's another one back here, down here as well. So, literally, I take these things and I make them. This I made for Airbender. This is what is badly called a Native American flute. I call them First Nation people because they were here before this thing was called America. So out of respect, I call them First Nation flute. This one here. This one here is like the membrane you heard, which makes my Western flute into a completely chromatic. These are from China. I did this for Kung Fu Panda 4.
Wow.
And like that. These I play with Lebo. You saw me play this with Lebo on stage with Hans. This is an incredible thing. This is fantastic. This is a nose flute that I made for Moana 2 because that is a traditional flute. That is the nose flute is the one that is made that is played in the Pacific region. So by
Wow.
doing all this research with these incredible acousticians, God has allowed me to develop knowledge to take something from Africa and make a head joint that goes into my flute and yet plays in tune. But it produces the sound of the traditional flute where it comes from. Yet I can play all the notes. You saw me do that in Pirates because I put the head joint of low whistle from Ireland. That's a
Yes.
flute that yeah, you saw me play. So this is so incredibly powerful because again, this is what some people might say. Well, that's one of your cliches, Pedro. But yeah, but it's valid. These things are unique, precious, and incredibly irreplaceable. And Daniel, in my hands, I can make sounds with these things that nobody else in the world can make. Maybe somebody that knows me has heard me said this before, but I don't get tired of saying it because it's so powerful, it's so important, it's so significant. The same way, I believe that anybody that is listening or watching this thing is unique. They are irreplaceable and they're precious. And I believe if they allow the Creator to take hold of their lives, God will make music out of them that nobody else in the planet can make.
I agree.
Very powerful.
You
Any
know,
other question? Yeah, please.
well,
Comment, questions? Please.
I do have one more. I wanted to ask you why you love the duduk because I hadn't I've mentioned it several times to people and a lot of people don't know what it is and I've said, "Oh,
Well,
it's
it's an incredible Armenian,
yeah.
soulful, unique, different sounding instrument. In Armenia, they say the sound of a duduk is a prayer.
Yes.
The
Yes.
first
I
time
don't know.
yeah, the first time I heard that instrument, I was so impacted. It left me bewildered. I said,
Yeah.
"What is this?" And immediately, I need to learn how to play this. You know,
Yes. It's
and the
beautiful.
origin of that was so weird because as a follower of Christ, I could not watch a movie called The Last Temptation of Christ. Okay, that is something I felt was very insulting to the creator of the universe whose love was shown at the cross, him dying for us, for someone to make something like that. But applying a principle from St. Paul, he says, study everything, analyze everything, and keep the good things. I heard some of the music in the radio, and I said, that's when I realized, oh my gosh. So I looked for Peter Gabriel's CD of the soundtrack, and he made a CD double, which is the music he made for the soundtrack. But many of the original traditional instruments and songs and playings he used to make, to inspire, to make this thing. And that
Hmm.
thing's called Origins. And in there was the greatest duduk player in all history called Vache Hosepian. And
Hmm.
I heard him play, and I said, I need to learn this. So this is a funny thing. This is over 30 years this year, 30 years, 95. I'm pumping gas in a gas station in Hollywood somewhere, Hollywood Boulevard or something. And back then you had to go pay inside. It was not simply you do it. And I heard the owner of the gas station had an accent, and he was talking on the phone in a foreign language. Where are you from? I'm from Armenia. Where? Do you know anybody that that can teach me the Duke because I love? Oh, sure. And he called Albert Vardanian, my first teacher. Albert, here, there's a customer here pumping gas, and he wants to study the Duke. Here, and he put me, and that's how I started taking lessons of the Duke. because I found my teacher to a gas station owner in Hollywood. And then after that, I got into the thing with shortly after that, I got into Yanni, and
Yes.
back then the conductor of Yanni's dear friend, is a wonderful family, Armand Anasian and Maestro Henrik Anasian, his father. Afterwards, many years, he wrote the first concerto for duduk and orchestra for me, and I premiered that, the first concerto of the 21st century. I'm sorry, I need to clarify that. And I premiered that in Venezuela with the Simon Bolivar Symphony Orchestra with Maestro Alfredo Rugeles conducting. And Maestro Anasio
Wow.
went to Venezuela and everything. And so Armand told me, Pedro, of course I'm from, and do you know Jivan Gasparian? I said, my goodness gracious, that's the biggest play in the world now. He's the master legend that plays, recorded for so many people, including Peter Gabriel. He's my friend. He played Duduk at my wedding. What? No way! So he put me together, and I studied under Jivan Jan, and until he died, and I had the honor to be invited to his 80th birthday anniversary concert, and I was one of the soloists who played there.
Oh,
Uh, so
wow.
yeah, so that's why. But again, that's an incredibly humbling, incredibly difficult instrument to play, which is polar opposite of what people hear when you hear it. You hear this beautiful thing, it's like, oh, amazing. But then you have to play this thing. I've been playing for over 30 years, and I'm still discovering things on this instrument.
Hmm.
So that's why I could not escape. That's what happens when I hear something. When I heard a quena from the Andes, I said, I need to play that. When I heard a charango, I said, I need to play that. When I heard jazz, because I'm the result, I'm the product of many influences, of mainly two huge ones. My brother, my elder brother, Maestro Michel Eustache, who's 80 now, still plays the flute, my first flute teacher, and he lives in Santiago de Chile. Amazing, amazing vision. I mean, when I was a kid, I'm talking about 60 years ago, he already had like 2,000, 2,500 LPs from all music from all of it. He put me classical music, traditional, medieval, Renaissance, early music. He put me jazz. He put all these things, folk music from many countries of the world. He is composer. He's a choir conductor. He is choir conductor, fantastic flautist. Like I said, he was my first flute teacher, and I am a consequence of his musical vision. He instilled in me all this incredibly pluralistic, multi-directional musical vision. And then Maestro Abreu with El Sistema, who is where the great, super celebrated, maybe the biggest young conductor, orchestral conductor in the world now, Maestro Gustavo Dudamel, comes from. His third generation of what I am a founder member is El Sistema of youth and children orchestras in Venezuela, who are the consequence of the super genius of Maestro Dr. Jose Antonio Abreu, who is not with us anymore. But those are two huge things that have influenced me. And since I'm very young, I felt very comfortable and very interested in many different things. And most importantly, to try to go to the sources
Hmm. Yeah.
and try to be as genuine as I can come into those things. Um, so yeah, this is it basically. I have something really, really important I haven't touched yet, but if you allow me, I'd love to share that because that might probably round off. If you don't have any other questions, I
Oh,
would
yeah,
love.
go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Uh huh. And yeah, God has allowed amazing things in my life. Amazing things in my life. A few weeks ago, we had the blessing of receiving what is for me my fourth Grammy certificate with Dune 2.
Hmm.
Dune won the Oscar 2 years ago
Yeah.
or last year. Funny thing is, last year Encanto was also um, for the Oscars, but Dune won. But then Encanto and Dune were both nominated for the Grammys, but then Encanto won. So, so I won this Oscar as playing in this thing, and then I won this Grammy certificate by playing in this thing because I played all the flutes in that thing. Um, I have the blessing of being the main wind instrumentalist soloist for geniuses like Hans Zimmer and Maestro John Williams and James Newton Howard and John Debney and John Powell and so many other incredible Ramin Djawadi, so many other incredible composers. I am so blessed, and many that I forgot to mention. I hope they forgive me. Uh, the thing is, and to play with incredible artists, including Gugush, a genius Persian superstar, and Dariush, and people like Sir Paul McCartney. I have a duet with Sir Paul McCartney playing duduk, and he's singing and playing his guitar. That's called Jenny Wren, Wren, like the bird.
Yeah.
And um, and in his last CD called Egypt Station, I played three songs with him. It's like somebody pinched me. I'm this brown guy, Haitian origin coming from Venezuela. Imagine that. Again, no manager, no agent, no publicist, no nothing. And these things are real. These things are true. But they will never get to my head, and they will never become something of arrogance or ego in my life because none of those truly remarkable and significant accolades will never bring back our beautiful little daughter, Jeanette Esther, who died of brain cancer over 36 years ago. She died 26 days after we arrived in this incredibly blessed country. And it's one of those things that we came this close to committing suicide. Literally. The level of pain was such, the level of confusion, the level of not understanding was so much that without talking, Sarah, my wife, and I, we both felt the same. We wanted to jump into an abyss. And somehow we feel our hand stopped us and brought us back. That's when I realized that although we didn't have a logical human explanation for such a horrible tragedy, we came to understand that the good book is true when it says that nothing created, nothing, not angels or demons, anything that is in the air or in the earth or under the water, not life nor death, nothing will be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. When I went through this, I went like, this is true. We have in the middle of the pain the wonderful perspective to know that our suffering is within the realm of the temporary because we have a perspective into the eternal, into that which will never end, and we will partage and we will share with her forever. And our pain on this little temporary time here is nothing, will be nothing compared to the beauty. And that gives us so much strength and courage. And that's why, in complete obedience to God, I try to do my best developing my craft, developing these instruments, developing the depth of my musical expression, hence that musical phenomenology thing that I mentioned before, which is something that if you mention that to musicians, they will say, they scratch their heads and say, what? Well, that thing, without being arrogant, is basically, or heady or trying to show off, is literally the science that searches to objectivize the laws that rule the evolution of sound in function of our consciousness. In other words, Danielle, that is a science that deals with how under certain conditions, music, sound actually, can affect our consciousness and make us transcend, thus becoming music.
Mm.
That's very heavy. That's incredible. Because if I do my job well, like the greatest master on that discipline, the maestro Sergio Chelividache said, there is no alternative to music. If, if I do my job well, and the audience or the public is open and free, and the conditions are right, so no prejudice, no attachments, no nothing, just open and transparent, and paying, putting their hearts there to live, to experience what is being shared. If I do my job well, we have no option but to transcend. It's beyond opinion, it's beyond our doing, is something that happens because art is a blessing from God. And I believe, Daniel, for an instant, we experience something that might be just a little teeny weeny nutshell of what we will experience forever in heaven, in glory.
Mm.
Now, people will tell me that, okay, if that's the case, then uh, how come everybody, believers and non-believers, can transcend? And I say, of course, it's true, but it's completely two different perspectives. For me as a believer, I have a glimpse of what I will experience. For an unbeliever, I believe they have a glimpse of what they could experience if they accept God's love through the cross.
Yeah.
It's two different perspectives. And that's why I believe, you know, it is so powerful. Art is something that is so from God that I
Yes.
don't think anyone can claim authorship of that except the creator of the universe.
It's, yeah, you say it so beautifully. I'm gonna cry, I think.
Listen,
You're a
again, these
poet
things,
at heart too, like
uh,
David.
one of my, you're amazing. My prose is really strong. I don't know if I'm a poet, but my prose is really, 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 really strong. I have a gift in that. And again, that's my inheritance. Uh, my grandpa was a brilliant lawyer and he was a writer, but one of his brothers was so brilliant. He was member of the French Academy of Language and an incredible writer and poet. And he was a member of that, and he won awards in the French Academy as a writer. So that's part of my inheritance as well. Exerviller, that's his name. Exerviller, Maître Exerviller, and my grandpa Joseph Villers, because I'm Eustache Villers. My dad Eustache, and my mom Villers. So that's part of my inheritance as well. And the most important thing to wrap this up from this what you just said, Daniel, I am a communicator. Whether I do it through music or some unique instruments, or over three notes that you gave me, or playing in front of 15,000 people or 18,000 people, as we do with Hans, or playing for millions through a sound score that is heard all over the world. Again, Moana 2 just, I heard it made $1 billion all over the world by being watched, but it's like my nose flew this in there. It's just an incredible thing, you know? And again, Dune 2 being maybe the biggest movie of last year. Complete genius. Denis Villeneuve with his incredible masterpieces. My point is, God has allowed these things in my life for me to be in a platform from which I can share and share in a context that can hopefully bring people to think a little bit about something that is eternal.
Yeah.
I have decided not to allow anything that functions in the temporary to jeopardize eternity in my life. I'm not going to allow tradition. I'm not going to allow gender identity. I'm not going to allow religion or where I was born or raised geographically or idiosyncratically or culturally. I will not allow any of those things to define me to such a way that I might jeopardize and not upset God's incredible gift through Jesus' sacrifice at the cross, which is universal. I will not allow any of these temporary things to jeopardize where I'm going to spend
Mm.
eternity. I think that's very precious.
Well, Pedro, it's been a gift to talk to you. You've
Oh, my
encouraged
pleasure,
me,
Daniel. My pleasure.
and I love your music that the Lord's
Thank you.
given you the gift to play.
Yes.
And I'm excited to see what else you do. Who knows, 30 years from now, what else you're gonna make.
Well, I don't know if I will be alive for 30 more years. I'm older than what I appear to be. But let me tell you this: whatever time God gives me here will be again growing, searching to become better, searching to worship Him deeper, more significantly, searching to, while I will do that, which is going vertical, which is what I do every time I play. You see me when I raise my hand. I'm, and I don't know if you, again, this is not religious, this is a reality. The microphone is open. And before I do Gladiator or before I do Dune 2, I'm literally asking Jesus to help me. I need Jesus. And I say in Spanish, Jesús, Jesús, ayúdame. Jesús, ayúdame. En tu nombre precious, in your precious name, Jesus, please help me, Jesus. Here I go. And I start playing for him with all my heart, with all my heart. I hope that as I keep aging, I keep searching to become closer to him, less of me and more of him. And I have ideas, I have electronics, I have unique things. This thing here is called steam pipe. And this is my fault in a way because I put together my teacher of Reactor, which is a software program that allows you to build your own virtual synthesizers or effects or drum machines or anything. It's an open thing. He taught me into something called steam pipe. And he made later a small version like that in a little circuit board. And I said, Martin, his name is Martin Schwarzes. He's a genius. He's in Netherlands. I said, Martin, you need to make this a commercial. No, I don't like that. I don't know how to do that. So through the years, I bothered him so much that I brought him to Erika Sens, which is a very good friend of Gerrit's, the honor president of another genius of Erika Sens. They make analog synthesizers like those things you see back there. Those are Behringers. That's a different thing. So he's already going to Australia. He left this morning. Danielle, my two cases, which by the way, which I anointed with oil before they left this morning to get all the way to Australia because after um, Cape Town, Label's concert, we do Australia, we do China, we do Japan, Singapore, and we end up in Abu Dhabi, God willing, touring with Hans again. The same show we saw. We're gonna finish this thing. So you saw the last time that thing will ever was shown in America. You witnessed something historical. Literally, you did.
Oh, it was the best
Incredible,
thing for but it was
incredible.
a huge
So yeah,
gift.
so
Yeah.
my machines left, so that's why my Erica scents are not here because they left. Well, this is Erica scent, this thing. But my point is, I put them together. I put Martin and Gibbs together because Gibbs knows how to make machines, hardware and everything. He's got an incredible company, and I'm one of his artists, and they make incredible stuff that sounds incredible. You saw me playing this in concert. I use this, which is like an electronic uh, 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 clarinet or saxophone analog from the 70s. Incredible thing. That's called the Lyricon. And I have several of these. And you saw me playing these things in Wonder Woman and many other things. And they got together and they made this thing. So this this thing is because I was so insistent in Martin making that thing that he had a little breadboard like that. He went with Gertz and Erica Sands in collaboration with 112dB, which is Martin's and his lady Anushka. They made this thing together. So there are so many of these things. Um, this is a big secret, and I'm finishing with this. I don't know what God is going to allow, but we're working very hard to see the possibility of doing a solo concert.
That would be beautiful.
So please, 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 please pray for me to see what God allows.
Yeah.
That's Danny Daher's doing, and he has brought me to wonderful places of strategy and creativity. He's a complete gift from God. He's a genius, and I love this guy. So we will see what happens. Hopefully we can make it. And if it doesn't happen, God didn't allow it, and I'm okay with that too. I'm like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when they say, "No, Mister King, that you can throw us into the furnace, but our God is gonna free us, and if He doesn't, still we will not be out." So I'm trusting God for this thing. If it happens, hallelujah. And if it doesn't happen, that is His will, and I'm okay with whatever God wants for me.
But I can tell by your personality that you will also try to see if it is God's will. You will not
Absolutely.
necessarily
And I'm
just,
no,
yeah,
listen, and I'm working
yeah.
so hard. So if it doesn't happen, this is a beautiful point. Because if it doesn't happen, it's not because I didn't do my job. If
Right.
it doesn't happen, it's
Yes.
because God wants something better for me. Or this is not
Yes.
for me. And that's okay, you know? But responsibly, I'm working my tail off for this thing.
Yeah. Well, Pedro, thank you so much. Blessings
I
on
talk
you
too
and
much.
your
I don't know how you're
tour.
gonna do with this big thing. It's a lot of talking. I'm so sorry.
No, it was
I hope
so,
you can
it's
make
so
something that
good.
makes sense out of all
No,
this
it was
event.
great. I
Thank
had
you.
the best time. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank you. My
much.
pleasure. My pleasure. And listen, may God bless you and may God bless. Thank you for allowing me the the precious opportunity to share from these wonderful things God has allowed in my life. And I hope this somehow blesses anyone that watches this thing. And may God bless what you do, and also as a journalist, sharing all these incredible people that you are interviewing. And I bless you also on that, my dear.
Thank you so much. All right. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too. Bye bye. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.